Desculpa aí, pessoal, com esses problemas técnicos a gente tem tido, tá? Ele tá tendo dificuldade ainda, tá? Desculpa aí, pessoal. Tranquilo, André. É problema técnico, assim, foge da nossa capacidade, né? Ele já entrou, tá?
Hey, we're back. Good.
Hey, Mark, you back?
Yeah, we're back at last.
Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Mark, I didn't understand nothing what you said on the foreign markets.
Okay.
But I can see you in the video as well right now. Are you pulling up on the video?
Yeah, I'm up on the video. I can see you, but can you not see us?
I can't see you.
Can you see us now?
Yeah. Vocês conseguem ouvir ele ou não?
Can you see?
No, I can't see you.
That's strange. That must be a connection thing.
Yeah, I can hear your voice though. Well, it's coming. You know, it said unable to join. E no teste, pessoal, deu assim, a gente fez um teste 1 hora e meia. There you are, Mark.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Desculpa aí todo mundo, tá? É problema técnico. Mark, but if you can go back to where we were on the foreign markets and how much do Premier League clubs and top league clubs from Europe benefit from overseas audience in the Middle East, in America, and Asia? Because I wasn't able to do anything, and I doubt anybody was.
Okay, well, let's go back over it. Foreign markets are massively important. I mean, particularly in this post-COVID times, for the Premier League and the Championship, vast majority of the incomes that is generated is from the television revenue. This is obviously a great platform for players. Any young players that come in and get a breakthrough, even if they're just on the bench, if the name's actually bandied about, they're going to actually get a profile that they wouldn't have got otherwise. The reality is that bar the Middle East, which is very difficult to control in terms of video piracy and streaming, and that was a key reason for why the takeover of Newcastle United Football Club wasn't permitted to happen. You've got it is key to the business model. I mean, for the Premier League clubs, if fans don't return to the clubs, they can, from the TV revenue alone, they can actually continue to do business. Whereas the Championship is not so easy. But the important point is that platform of the TV markets around the world, particularly in Asia, it's become so important that even like the scheduling of games is now is not geared to what the UK market is. It's geared to what the viewers around the globe want to watch and when they want to watch the top games. And obviously that has meant that the players have gone from being celebrity sports stars to global superstars, and consequently with that they've become the modern day gladiators. So it's quite amazing because like a lot of the work that I do with the lower leagues, it's hard to believe that a player in 18 months can go from there, from basically from a fairly modest income to all the way to like movie star status and beyond. And that is all because of the TV audience and the fact that it's become an entirely global market.
Okay. And then Mark, still talking about leagues and TV, we here in Brazil, unfortunately, we're not in Europe, so we don't participate of, one, we don't have that strong currency. Two, we're not in the Champions League, so our clubs don't get that Champions League money. What do you think would be a solution for a league like Brazil or even Argentina to have a bigger audience and a bigger importance in the world of club football, despite having very traditional clubs? But outside of Brazil, Brazilian clubs are not very much talked about.
I think the thing is, it's going back to like what we were talking about earlier about a club having a strategy. Instead of it being a club, it needs to be a league to have a strategy. A bit like, the Premier League was very lucky to have some very strong leaders who had a very clear picture of what they were going to do with the Premier League. And to be fair, when they started that working prior to 1992, when it became the Premier League from the old Division 1, it was almost laughable, some of the ideas. I mean, a big British retailer, Marks and Spencer, was touted and asked to buy into the brand, and they were actually trying to sell the Premier League as a brand in itself. So, like, instead of people buying football shirts for, say, Liverpool, Southampton, or the founding teams at like Everton, they were actually trying to sell t-shirts and strips for the Premier League. But because they believed so strongly in the product, what they did is they drove for it, and reality was they got a break. They cut a massive break in that Rupert Murdoch's Sky Television, which was effectively set up for the broadcast of movies to your homes. That market didn't actually really take off. It was actually the fact that live sport, and particularly the Premier League, jumped on that bandwagon, and through guys like John Smith, the football agent turned football investment entrepreneur, they at a very early stage, these strong characters actually put together a business plan that actually worked, and the two things were a synergy that are built over a period of time. So, I mean, for the Brazilian league, it needs to have a strong strategy that actually is based on its heritage, and basically it's not too difficult to achieve. If you actually think about that, some of the greatest players that graced the game have come from Brazil. It seems an absolute tragedy that the league is, most people in Europe probably wouldn't even be able to name half the teams, let alone know who the players are. So this is something that really needs to be addressed. And I think the thing is that if there's a good sense of direction in actually trying to keep some of the best talent for the Brazilian league itself, and try not to work on so heavily on selling the best players at extraordinarily high levels of transfer fee for fairly unknown and untested players, because no one really understands the quality of the leagues in South America. I think that the actual fact is that it could actually be something that people will watch, and more importantly, not just watch, but actually pay and enjoy to watch and start to support in these teams. And then if you could do something like that, you perhaps could, if you've got a very strong model, you can perhaps start to make the sort of traction that the MLS has done, which even 5 years ago, it was something that people really didn't want to tune into. And now it's become a major part of the TV offering across Europe.
Okay. Well, Mark, right now we have a question of Ender here. He's very much involved here with us as well. He's asking, Brazilian nationality is a good selling point for a football player?
Oh yeah, all day long. I mean, the Brazilian players are, I don't know, there's something about the technical ability, their gift, the way that they play. Pele's obviously been massive in that. But then again, every season there's a very strong Brazilians, and those Brazilian players are very much loved. There's a fondness that we'd like to see. I think it's the fact that often they come to Portugal, they often come to Europe, and they set the game alight. I mean, one of the things is that every sort of geographical area has got something special about their players. Sometimes it's for the Brazilians, for everybody who's got a reputation for being extraordinarily technical and able to play in very tight areas, play with flamboyance and a style and a charisma, and often normally with a really nice smile on their faces, like Ronaldinho, people like that. And you know what, that's always a very attractive thing for anybody. Let's face it, it wasn't so long ago that a football team in a football team in the Division One or the Premier League was all about British players. Then the international players started turning up like Fabrizio, went to middle, and when you start bringing the talents from Brazil and South America, just very, very exciting, and I just think it adds a bit of panache and makes it much more interesting for a global audience.
Okay, and then Mark, right now, there's a theme that we can't run away from, which is basically the COVID, the pandemic. It's hitting the clubs really big because no fans allowed, can't travel. And especially the lower leagues as well. What are they doing in Britain over there to sort of amortize a little bit the loss in revenue that they're having?
Well, I think the key thing is it's different at different levels, but I think the most taxing problem is for the lower league teams because they rely very heavily on the gate receipts, on the fact that the audiences that come. I've spoke to several clubs this week in the lower leagues, and the thing that's been very helpful for them is that some of them have got stadia that were built many years ago when they were in a higher division, and consequently they don't get the footfall that they used to get. So if it's a threshold of say like 20% of the stadium is allowed to be occupied, they actually can, if they forget about away fans, they can actually just about sell their season ticket allocation. And that was pretty much the plan that clubs like Accrington Stanley, Fleetwood Town, clubs like Burton Albion were following, and they had planned to do all summer. So they put in a lot of protocols to make sure that they could conform to all the health and safety requirements that are needed to minimise the spread of the disease. But what's actually happened here is that as the summer's faded away and the winter's come, we seem to have got a rise in the infection rate. The R rate's gone above 1, and the hope that we actually would have fans able to watch the games seems to have diminished. We were expecting that from October the 3rd that at least 1,000 fans would be allowed into most stadia. Which is effectively the National League and the National League North, National League South. That doesn't look like that's going to happen, so I don't know how they're going to cope because they seldom sell any players to a higher level that is enough income that will see them through for the season. And then on the alternative has been for the EFL has been a really strong concerted effort for Championship, League One, League Two to actually work with the internet platform iFollow so that they could actually offer a digital season ticket, which pretty much came with your season ticket, which allow you to watch the games. Generally, it's about between £10 and £15, something like that, to watch the games. And obviously, streaming technology was never geared to have the kind of volumes that people are watching, so sometimes it buffers pretty badly, but at least you can get to see your team. There's been a real concerted effort between all broadcast platforms, Sky, BT Sports, and also our national broadcast, the BBC, to actually take as many games as they can. And consequently, what they've done, so the Premier League games, we know probably an unprecedented amount of Premier League games are now live. There hadn't been Premier League games live on the BBC for maybe best part of 20 years, but that's actually happened. They're free to air, a lot of those games, which at least that means that people can still have access to the football and watch the games. The Championship is the league that's probably missed out the most. It's probably the one that's really needs it the most in terms of the income, because the Championship League, you've got teams there that have dropped out of the Premier League, and suddenly they do get a parachute payment, but that's only for a couple of years. The money that they get doesn't really touch the sides, because all it does is pretty much indemnify them on contracts that they've got with players that were being paid Premier League wages and now in a much lower division where the income stream is substantially less. To give you an example, I was doing some work a couple of weeks ago for Bournemouth. It was on their sponsorship. They had a sponsorship deal for Premier League, which was worth just under £7 million to have the shirt sponsorship and training kit and stadium look. The company that was going to take it basically cancelled the deal. And I spent the next 4 weeks trying to find an alternative sponsor. And in the championship, for that same deal is 10%. So they were looking for a deal less than 700,000, and I believe they settled for a deal at £400,000, which had they been in Premier League was £7 million. It gives you an idea of the scale that when you drop down, what it is. So it's so important that those in the Championship they have to money from sponsors. The hospitality sector and all of that is gone. The sites for vending machines, the sites for like burger bars, restaurants, all the stuff that goes with it, that's all gone. And so that's the danger zone, because there's a lot of teams there that have pretty much gambled on buying players that are beyond the level.
Yeah. Okay. And Mark, we had another question from Ender. He was asking the Chinese league, is it better for agents or the owners of the leagues, of the team of the leagues, or is it better for the player? You know what I mean? What makes a player actually go there, and if it's good for his athlete career?
Okay.
Taking out money away.
Well, I mean, the only player that I've had two players that I've worked with that have gone to China and worked there. One of them was John Obi Mikel. He used to be at Chelsea.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed his time in China. I mean, mostly because the money was extreme. I mean, he was able to earn a wage that just was untenable elsewhere. It was effectively tax-free. He was looked after like a king, and to be fair, when he went there, he found the football extraordinarily easy. I mean, that has changed in the last 24 months. It's got more competitive. But if you look at some of the video which is available on Y-Scout and Instat of Obi Mikel's time there, you've never seen the guy dominate so much. I mean, he was actually taking the ball from one box to the other box. And bearing in mind that he's getting a little bit older now, that really is quite extraordinary.
And he was a sub at Chelsea, you know.
Exactly. So so he did a stint there for a long time. What he found very difficult though was the culture, and he found the fact that it actually was quite tedious at times. He found it very oppressive. He was used to the flam. Ronaldinho wouldn't enjoy it very much. It's not very exciting from a social area. I mean, particularly the club he was at, it was difficult. Apart from the football, there wasn't much going on. And so ultimately it came to a point where he was looking to make that move, and his next stop was Turkey. So, I mean, it's definitely a league where a player, if he's got a profile, he can go there. I mean, Chinedo Obasi is another player that I know that has done a stint there. And to be fair, he was at the end of his career, really. He tried to make a move to the UK. It wasn't really happening. Basically, people said he was too old and perhaps came too late to the game. He was scoring goals in Scandinavia for Malmo, and bottom line, he went to China, and he absolutely killed it. One, financially, it set him up for life. He was already pretty wealthy, but this took it to a whole new level. And ultimately, he felt that he got the adulation and the respect as a player that perhaps he would have been lacking elsewhere. So for him, it was a very, very positive move. I think
Now,
obviously, obviously agents love it as well. But the thing is, what you tend to find is that it's a difficult market for an agent to work with. It's all about collaboration. It's about there's key lawyers, there's key agents, there's key business people that are involved in those in China, and without them and involved in the deal, you've got no hope of getting a player there unless they come hunting for the player and you happen to be. Everybody knows that he's your player. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Okay. And then, Mark, in here in Brazil, a lot with the players that they, high-profile players, they go to China in one level, and then they come back, and they spend like 3 to 4 months just to get to a reasonable level. Did that happen to Mikel when he went to Turkey? Did he have some difficulty when he went to a more higher-rated league?
To be fair, yeah, of course. I mean, he featured, but he did have the benefit of having a brief stint at Middlesbrough when he came back. When he came back from ended his contract in China, he had a little stint at Middlesbrough, which allowed him to toughen up really again and be a bit more realistic about where he's got to be on the pitch, because he had extraordinary freedom in China. Whereas, bottom line is he came back to play defensive midfield, centre back, and in the Championship, his age showed his lack of fitness. Bottom line was he fought very hard, but he was very confined. You didn't see any of these lung busting runs that we saw in China. And then obviously when he went to Trabzonspor in Turkey, that league, Super League's, the quality of that has dropped over the last couple of years, but it's still competitive. And I think the bottom line is he found that not as easy as China, certainly not as hard as the Championship, and I think he quite enjoyed the weather. So I think that's pretty much the end of the story. There was also quite a few people at Trabzonspor that he knew, so that was quite helpful. So like Daniel Sturridge and Donis Avdija, a couple of players that he already had a strong link with, which meant that it was a pretty interesting time for him. And I think at the end of the day, the club's held in very high esteem.
Okay. And now, Mark, we're coming, we've got like 5 more minutes here. And, we talked a lot about the business side of the football and so forth. I think it'd be good if we talked a little bit about the transfer window. We got a lot of time still. There's been some very interesting and nice deals in this transfer window, which not so much money except for Chelsea. Can you talk a little bit about the signings of Chelsea? For the Brazilian, or the Thiago Silva, 36. Going to Chelsea. That's something interesting. But they had a very good summer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Chelsea was really interesting because they came on the back of a transfer embargo, which was to do with the fact that it was considered that they'd been signing young players in an improper way, which actually has been proven not to be the case. And with Frank Lampard as the manager there and Jody Morris in support, they basically was forced to bring through the younger players and play on an inexperienced team, and ended up with like a top 4 finish. And now, obviously, the gloves are off and they're able to go out into the recruitment time. And it's the first time, really, for the best part of 6 or 7 years that Roman Abramovich has actually been freed up the money and really actually said, go out there. You've proven that you can do it with what you've got. So they've been extreme. They started their transfer business very early, pretty much back in May, and they've continued to bolster what they've got, and the squad's just getting stronger and stronger. And there's no doubt about it that this year will be a really strong test. The fact that Frank Lampard was a relatively inexperienced manager, and that obviously a sweetheart of Chelsea, with what he did last year, and now that he's got top class players for this season and for at least for the next 2 seasons for sure. Really good contracts they've been doing. I think you're going to find that there's an expectation is they're going to be at least top 4, but have a run in the Champions League and at least pick up some sort of trophy, be it in FA Cup or Carabao Cup or something like that. But I think ultimately they want to return to the top table and to do well in the Champions League. I think it'll be very difficult for them to win the title. I mean, Liverpool still looking extraordinarily strong, and Man City look very, very comfortable too. And Man City's got such a wealth of talent. They're coming up, which touches back on the point that we were talking about earlier on about City Group. Any transfer window, if they don't go to the market, they can always pull players from their own teams from across the globe. And one of the players that I do some work with is a lad called Morgan Rogers. He moved from West Brom last year. 17 years old. For it's an undisclosed fee, but it was in excess of £4 million, which is just amazing for some lad who's never played first team football. They've got a wealth of talent like that. Rory Delap's son. Tonight in the Carabao Cup, he scored. He looks a really exciting player, more than just someone who can big throw in that Rory was famous for at Stoke and at Southampton. There's some amazing talent that they can draw upon, and I think the thing is that under Michael Emanuele, who left Chelsea last year, that they'd always had a very strong scouting network, and they were bringing players from all over the globe, particularly South America. And when they brought those players in, they brought them with the idea that they'd have a very strong upward movement of players through the system. And if those players weren't good enough, they'd move into other places. And now they've got a complete package because they got they're even talking about letting Loftus-Cheek go to Southampton on a loan. That caliber player, most teams would take him, and he would be in the starting lineup. And at Chelsea, they don't even need a player like that. It's just quite surreal. So they're going to be big. Mm-hmm.
And England international. Mark, also we have Ender again with a question. He asked about here in Brazil, a lot of people like La Liga and so forth. He was asking about Luis Suarez' move to Atletico Madrid. How much did an agent make that? You know what I mean? Because your friend Ronald Koeman let him go. And also, if you could talk a little bit about Thiago in Liverpool, which was amazing performance on Sunday, and how it was a very, very, very good deal. Free to Everton from Real Madrid. That was a snap, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'll take James first. James immediately looked changed Everton. He had the same kind of impact that Bruno Fernandes did when he went to Man United earlier in the year. That ability that guy brought, he brought a new lift to them, and they look really dangerous, Everton, this year. They actually looking like they might have a chance of European football the way they're going. With regards to the Luis Suarez deal, perplexed that Barcelona let him go, and I do know Ronald, and there'll be a very good reason for why he did that. But the thing is, mad to think that he's gone to Atletico Madrid, because in La Liga it's a very strange deal with regards to television rights. The two top teams, Real Madrid and Barcelona, get a disproportionate amount of the money. It's amazing when you see a Valencia or Atletico Madrid challenge and give them a bloody nose. And so it seems very curious to me that they would do a deal for Suarez. I would suggest that it was something that he wanted to do, to go to Diego Simeone, and perhaps he felt undervalued because he's been so fantastic at Barcelona, and everywhere he's gone, he's just a formidable opponent. So I think that the agents on that deal would have made a decent amount of money. There's no doubt about it. There would have been a signing-on fee. I don't have the particulars of it, but I can it to be a similar deal. Look at the way that Aguero moves and the way he plays for Man City, and you start to think his age just arbitrary. And in my view, it is. In my experience, some of the older players that I've worked with are fitter than the younger players. And to be fair, because they understand the pressure that's expected, that there is an ageism against them, and there's it's not helped by the fact that the PFA gears their pension schemes to the age of 35. And the bottom line is that the clubs work like actuaries do. They insure their players on the basis of where they're at. They try and mitigate all their risks, and when they get to a certain age, they want to get rid of. As simple as that. But the thing is that players have got better nutrition, better coaches, better techniques. Everything's improved in that area, and players are looking after themselves. And the reality is that, you know, it's not going to be that. You know, you see Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's still killing it. Any team he goes to, it won't be that unusual to see players doing very well at the age of 40. The way things are going. And I think Luis Suarez will always be a dangerous player if he looks after himself. Coming back onto you said about Thiago in Liverpool. Well,
yeah.
I mean, he just shows that class and experience is something. You know, age doesn't matter. I mean, the guy reads the game incredibly well. The ball comes to me, he already knows what he's going to do with it. He looks like he.
Yes. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Well, Mark, we're coming to an end here of the live. Thank you very much for, you know, participating here with us. Sorry for the, you know, the technical problems we had. You know, things of technology. Like to know, you know, your last words here for everybody.
Well, it's a pleasure to join you guys, and hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. Have a great and is talking about this this guy, Argentinian German Cano, who is always scoring a lot of goals. But anyway, guys, thank you very much, everybody.
Take care.
Sorry for the technical displays, but we managed to speak everything that we already had come up with, and you know, it's pretty much thorough. Okay, but thank you very much, Mark, and thank you everybody that was watching. All right,
Thank
all
you.
the best.
Take care. Bye bye.